Okay, here we go. Good morning or afternoon, whichever it is where you're watching this. I'm going to do a little explanation of what I did for this guitar. This is a Beaver Creek, formerly 12-string travel guitar. Very small. Kind of cool. Picked it up used for $100. It has a passive piezo transducer pickup in the bridge, and it's kind of a fun little guitar to play. It has a very wide neck because it's a 12 string, and I found it was hard to keep in tune, so I eliminated the low side tuners, leaving only the high side tuners, which, or I guess no, I'm sorry, I take that back. It's the extra string. What is that, like the descant or whatever that goes with each string, that I eliminated. So every second tuner is still intact, because that would have necessitated changing the nut, and I didn't want to do that. Anyway, so what you got is the strings are all shifted. You can see, so I have a reasonable clearance on the high E string, but on the low E string there's a fairly wide gap, which is okay, because that means your string spread is still pretty reasonable. I also, because it had very high action when I started out, I considered sanding down the bridge saddle to even it up, but I found that if I flipped it around, it evened up the height above the bridge, so you have a uniform height from high to low E. But that also affected the intonation, supposedly, because the intonation, this particular saddle had angles filed into it or shaped into it to accommodate the intonation of the low strings. But it hasn't seemed to affect, it hasn't affected the intonation overall. Let me demonstrate that. Anyway, so that's pretty good. In the process of doing all that, I inadvertently affected the contact on the piezo strip, the transducer strip, which gave the high E a very muffled sound. So I started trying to make alterations in the base of the saddle, which you have to have like perfect contact uniformly across the strip. And it's like a copper strip with whatever they put in the piezo to make it do what it does. Anyway, so I kind of reversed everything and did some concaving, and that kind of did the reverse effect. So then I kind of tried to even it out, and I think I have it pretty good now. The lowest E string, or the lowest string, that is the low E string, is a little quieter than the accompanying string, the A and so forth. They're louder, but they're not too bad. So in the process of doing that, I lowered the action considerably. I had done this to lower the action to begin with, which worked pretty good. But I encountered these other problems. So then I decided I would relax the truss rod a little bit. And it turned out they had it tightened to the max, I guess to accommodate the 12 strings. And I heard a snap when I released it, so that's how tight it was. It was at galling tension. So at that point, it all started to loosen up fairly nicely, and what had happened was the action had come down so low that one of the frets was, you couldn't even hear it. I did a little fret leveling. That helped a little bit, but not sufficiently. Now what I'm getting is still some buzzing. The action's at about 1/8 of an inch at the bottom, at the heel. This fret here, you couldn't even hear it before. Anyway, so it's reasonable. It's not 1/10 of an inch. I like the action 1/10 of an inch at the heel, but I'll make do with 1/8 of an inch. Let me check something. Not sure what the high E string is though. Check my little feeler gauge here. Oh, actually, that's at 1/10 of an inch. The high E is 1/10 of an inch. The A is at 1/8 of an inch, approximately. I go by the card. Anyway, so I guess it's pretty good. So we've got 1/10 of an inch action at the heel. I don't know what it is up the neck a little bit. Yep, it's pretty uniform. It's bowed in a little bit high. So if you got some buzzing, just relax that truss rod, and it tends to help. So I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to play through the Fender Sidekick. I had to do a little work on the jack as well. I removed it and bent in the contact a little bit, so it's a little tighter now. Got to make a lot of changes when you're modifying a guitar. Now these passive transducers are wild. I have it set way, way, way low. and the brightness just is incredible on this. So I run it down all the way at the bottom, drop the tone. So it came out pretty good. Still got some work to do on it. Oh, and there was some burring. That is to say, the ends of the frets were catching my fingers a little bit. So I went and put a drop of super glue on each end of every fret, and now they're nice and smooth. Of course, then you got to sand it a little bit to level them off or even them off. But that's what you do. You get a cheap guitar, you're going to have a few little problems with it. A lot of sanding and polishing and whatever. Makes them work a lot better. But it sounds okay through the amplifier. Now I have all those controls set at pretty much midpoint. No brighter on the treble. I'm playing through just the reverb from the Fender Sidekick. Here's what it is. Here's with the tone on full. Now I've dropped it all the way down. That's with it dropped all the way down. That's on a muffled 0 tone. I might want to give it a little bit. That's the modified Beaver Creek 12-string travel guitar. It's kind of cool. It has this little dip in the profile. Kind of a nice bout, upper and lower. Very discreet. It's kind of nice.